Please welcome as loud as you possibly can, Mr. Monte Lunde. Woo!
Thank you. All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here bright and early. Before I introduce our lifetime inductee, Ron Miziker, Pat and Roberta have asked me to give you a little bit of history relative to the Lifetime Achievement Award. So the very first Thea Award was a festive roast and presentation of this Lifetime Achievement Award to Harrison Buzz Price back in 1994. Buzz was an industry icon, entrepreneur, and personality extraordinaire. Sometimes irreverent, but he was a true industry intellectual. Among Buzz's many achievements were the selection of Anaheim to be the location for Disneyland and Orlando to be the location for Walt Disney World. After many years with Disney, Buzz left and formed his own company, Economic Research Associates, and then later the Harrison Price Company, both focused on developing comprehensive feasibility studies for entertainment-related projects. 5 years ago, after Buzz's passing, the Thea Committee and the TEA International Board decided to honor Buzz by renaming the Lifetime Achievement Award to the Buzz Price Thea Award for a Lifetime of Outstanding Achievements. Other recipients of this prestigious award include Marty Sklar, Don Iwerks, John Hench, Bob Gurr, Tony Baxter, John Jurdy, George Millay, Barry Upson, Yves Pepin, Bob Rogers, Jack Rouse, Bob Ward, Mark Fuller, Kim Irvine, Joe Rohde, Frank Stanek, and last year Garner Holt. Now, I have a theory about these Lifetime Achievement recipients, and that is if your first name happens to be a single syllable or end in a Y, you have a 90% higher probability of winning this award. Now, regarding this year's Lifetime Achievement honoree, Ron Miziker, he's one of the nation's foremost showmen and creator of World Spectaculars. His shows and attractions have entertained billions. Working as a conceptualist, writer, and producer, Ron's created television series, galas, themed attractions, and spectaculars for international events around the world. Ron founded his production company, Miziker & Company, in 1984, and his clients include television networks, major corporations, presidents, kings, queens, a sultan, the Olympics, the World Cup, the Super Bowl, the Orange Bowl, Spain Expo 92, and the Pan American Games, as well as attraction developers Disney, Universal, Lotte World, Radio City Music Hall, and many, many others. Ron's honors include the Valley Forge Freedom Foundation Award, the 1987 Gala Award for the Most Outstanding Spectacle, an Emmy, a Cable Television Ace Award, awards of excellence from both the International Television Association and the Film Advisory Board, a George Foster Peabody nomination, and 2 Theas prior to the one he'll receive tomorrow night. During his 20 plus years of TEA membership, Ron has served on the TEA International Board for 6 years and many TEA committees. He also produced the very first Thea presentation for Buzz Price and 4 other very, very successful Thea Award galas, including the TEA 20th anniversary. Ron is a master at creating memorable moments for mass audiences. His accomplishments for Disney and others are truly legendary. So please join me in welcoming the 2015 Buzz Price Lifetime Achievement recipient, Ron Miziker.
Thank you. The important thing. I was asked to talk about how I started and how I got here. When I was first asked to do this, I said, nobody wants to hear that. You know, but everybody was insistent, so I'm going to do that for you today. Hope I don't bore you too much. Over my career, I've worked basically in 3 areas. One is television specials and television shows and different types of television, a lot of network television. World-class events, Super Bowls, Olympics, US Festival, all kinds of different types of world-class, very large events. and themed entertainment, which of course is one of my favorites. And in themed entertainment, we've done spectaculars, complete entertainment plans, shows of all different types. I'll take you a little tour of myself now. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Albuquerque is a pretty isolated place. But when I decided to go to college, and I enrolled at the University of New Mexico, and that's me. I really they started a new course in television production, and I thought, wow, that really is kind of cool. So I decided to enroll in that course, and after working, after being in it for about a year and a half, I actually got a job at the local PBS station as a cameraman. And then, but by the time I graduated, I was producing 23 hours a week of television shows for the station. At that time, it was called NET, National Educational Television, instead of PBS. And we did a lot of educational shows, but we did a lot of other kinds of shows as well. And I was very fortunate in that I was actually winning national prizes for some of the shows. Since I had 5 hours a week that was actually being, in those days you didn't broadcast by satellite around to other stations. It was actually, tapes were carried. It was called bicycling. You actually bicycled the tapes from station to station to station. Don't laugh. It happened. So I was actually very fortunate. But so by the time I graduated, I had a pretty good background. But I had this burning desire to go into advertising. I wanted to do Oscar Mayer Wiener commercials and things like that. So I came out to SC and took a summer course in film production and advertising. And by the time I finished that, I ran out of money. So, I started applying for jobs. And in those days, you got those big books and you had to go through and, the companies were listed what kind of people they hired and everything. So I started at the A's and went on from there. And the first people to respond was an A. And I was offered a job in the advertising department of Armstrong, and their headquarters is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But the neat thing about it is their agency was BBD&O on Madison Avenue in New York. It was quite, going to work in Lancaster, Pennsylvania was like going back 200 years in time. But the company was a huge company. The guy that was head of advertising before the one that I was working for actually wrote the book Executive Suite, which became both a Broadway play and a motion picture. So, and the interesting thing is the book was about the corporate life at Armstrong Cork Company. And he got fired for it, by the way. I guess the bosses saw too much of themselves in his book. But anyway, while I was there, I was doing industrial shows, product promo films, commercials with BBD&O, and writing speeches for the president of the company and other key individuals. So it was quite interesting. But at one point, because they knew of my television background, they were doing a series of television specials, and they assigned me to be the account rep on the specials. And it was a series of Broadway shows with Robert Goulet, and as you see, they actually had a record that was released from them as well. So that was really kind of a fun experience. But what I learned in the course of working in advertising was I didn't like it. Okay, all you're doing is selling product, and just didn't go for that. I really wanted to do real shows, real entertainment kind of aspects. So I sent out applications, and I ended up getting a job producing a 90-minute daily talk show in Cincinnati. Originally, it was called the 50/50 Club. It was syndicated all around the Midwest. It was a very big show. We had 500 people in the audience every day. We had a 12-piece orchestra on stage. All the celebrities who did the Tonight Show, we'd get a call from the next day or two to come on our show because we had such a big audience. And of course, they were all selling records or books or whatever, So, and my job with the show was also to, keep the show going, but more than that, it was to try to find a way to repackage it so that they could take the show national. And I did that. I put together a whole presentation and what it should be. And the company decided at that point that they were making too much money with the show the way it was, and it was a big gamble. So no, we're not going to do it. So I sort of found myself sitting there in Cincinnati, and I thought, I really want to get out to the West Coast. So Card Walker, who was he was vice president of marketing for Disney at the time, used to come on the show with his characters. Snow White, the re-release of Snow White, the re-release of Pinocchio, whatever the case was. And I got to know him, and so I said, hey, let's have lunch. Bought him lunch and said, I really want to get back to the West Coast. Can you see if you can get me a job with Disney? And he said, I don't know. And we talked and talked. And he said, okay, let me see what I can do. So weeks go by, and, I'm calling him, hey, got anything for me? And finally, he called me back one day and said, I got a job for you. And he says, it's not in television, and it's not in film, but we're starting this new arena show. And the producer of that show needs a good assistant. Would you be interested in doing that? So, of course I will. So, why not, right? So, that's how I ended up at Disney, and the show was Disney on Parade. It was the first touring arena show that Disney did. It was a huge show. When we left rehearsals in Long Beach, we had 65 semis on the road. And the show opened in Chicago, and it was a huge success. But when you're doing, arenas, and you're the first time out, it's very hard to get consecutive dates. So we had a big break before the next performance, which was at Madison Square Garden. And the actors went on strike. And what happened was they tried to open the show with the actors, or at least set up the show with the actors on strike. And the unions came in New York and completely destroyed the show the day before opening. They actually cut the cables, dropped everything from the ceiling, crashed, tore up the scenery, burned the costumes, completely destroyed the show. So it was pretty brutal. The fellow who was the producer of the show was a man by the name of Bob Yanni. And he said to me, he said, Ron, I've got to take care of the show. I've got lots of problems, but I'm also supposed to be doing the planning all the shows and everything for Walt Disney World. He said, would you like to do that? I said, hey, why not? So I made the trek for the first time to Disney World and start planning shows for Walt Disney World. And in the course of that, my office was in California, and Bob was still over me, and he was my boss in essence. And it was kind of interesting because at Disneyland during this period, to try to attract guests on a regular basis, we used to run a program of celebrity entertainers. And, I thought, well, this is kind of strange when we're paying all this money to these celebrity entertainers, and they're at this little, they perform at the Tomorrowland stage. It only holds 2,000 people, and the performers will only do either 2 or 3 shows a night, so at the most that's 6,000 people out of 60,000 people that are in the park. Doesn't seem like a very good way to spend your money. So I really decided that, our stage was not that Tomorrowland stage. Our stage was Main Street. And what can we do with Main Street? And going back and thinking, going back in my theater history classes and so forth, and thinking about how, remember the medieval days, they used to have a series of carts that would roll down the street. And each cart had a different scene in that was part of the show, the continuous show. I said, let's really take that approach and not do just a parade, but let's do a show parade and do something really special with it. At that time, there was a Christmas parade that Walt actually started way back when. And that was really the only parade that existed. So we went to Card and we really sold the concept of doing parades, which at that point, then since we were building Disney World at that point, I had to sit down with John Hench and the others at Imagineering and say, hey, by the way, you know that nice bridge that you have going into Liberty Square? Well, it's got to be flat now because we're going to be rolling floats over it. And the whole route has to be so wide and so, and only turns so sharp and so forth. And of course, that was a real fight. But we ended up building the first real parade route at Walt Disney World. And of course, we put it to good use since then. But we actually, the first time we put it to good use was for the actual opening of Walt Disney World, which was my responsibility to produce. And it was a 3-day event, and we had everything from the center picture there is the World Symphony Orchestra, in which there were musicians from all over the world that came to it, and a thousand-piece marching band with 176 trombones led by Meredith Willson, the man who wrote Music Man. A giant luau. Obviously the opening parade and the dedication. And along with that, a television special was being built into the whole complex of the thing. It was a primetime television special with Bob Hope and Julie Andrews, and it all had to be integrated with what we were doing with all of the other elements of the project. Anyway, after that, I became director of show development for all the parks, Disneyland, Epcot, Tokyo Disneyland, and so forth. But and had my hands full. But when we got back from opening Disney World, I'm looking at my time here, it's going by really fast. The card said, we got a real challenge. All the attention is in Florida. We have to do something special for Disneyland, so come up with something. So what we came up with was the Main Street Electrical Parade. And it met the need. It kept people there much later in the evening. It was strong enough to keep lots of people there in the evening. So it really met the need. And someday we'll have a whole story about the Main Street Electrical Parade, because that's quite an interesting story in getting that little puppy built. Also, this was Super Bowl 11. This is the first time the NFL actually, for Super Bowl, actually did a big halftime show. And they called on Disney to do it. And we decided we were going to get the entire Rose Bowl to do the show, be part of the show. And of course, the NFL said, no, it's never going to happen. Everybody goes out and does what they do at halftime. And nobody's going to do it. Well, these pictures show you that. Here, the very first big Super Bowl show, everybody in the stands participated in the show. Another one for Disney was the big celebration for the bicentennial of the United States, and we did the big celebration in New York. First time the Statue of Liberty was really done up in a grand way. Then lots of people don't know, but Disney actually was commissioned to do the opening ceremonies for the Olympics here in Los Angeles. David Wolper gets the credit because at one point the Olympic Committee came to Ron Miller, was president of the company at the time, and said, no, you're not going to get by with a $10 million donation. We want $40 million. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. Well, we already had a lot of planning and everything into the project. And when Disney backed out, then I had to meet with Wolper and go through the whole background of what we had done, what we created already, and what was in motion. And then he took it on from there. Then after 10 years working in the parks, I went to the studio as a television producer. Finally got back into television after all those years. And my job was to produce all the network primetime specials from the parks. Sandy Duncan at Disneyland. I did the opening of Epcot Center with Danny Kaye, etc. The highest rated show of one season on NBC was the reunion of the original Musketeers up in the right-hand corner. We brought back 28 of the original 35 Musketeers, and they recreated the same numbers they did as children, but as adults. It was really a special show. My time is running out. I've got 4 minutes left here. But anyway, I got assigned by Ron Miller to work with Reagan to get him elected president. And then after he became president, I spent a lot of time going on the international trips, being the producer for the president, basically. The one on the bottom is I actually produced the meeting of Reagan and the Pope at the Vatican. When they decided to do the Disney Channel, I was selected to be the person to create all the original shows, put the Disney Channel on the air. So I did that for 3 years. There I am again. My hair is just beginning to get gray in that shot. So then I negotiated a contract with the channel, and I decided that I would do shows for the channel, but with my own company. But as soon as I got out, people were right away calling saying, we want to do this kind of an event. We want to do themed entertainment. So over the years, I've continued to stay in the entire realm with spectaculars such as the gala for the Atlanta Olympics with all the celebrities, the Sultan of Oman's grand celebration, 3 more Super Bowl shows, the opening ceremonies of the Pan American Games. Our stage was exactly a half-mile wide for this show. We had 10,000 performers in the show. I did the state funeral for Richard Nixon, which was actually one of the most emotional projects I ever did. It was amazing. Television shows. I did the Perry Como music specials, which we used to get a 40 share, which means half of the people in the U.S. are watching the show. That was with John Wayne just before he died on our show that we did at Colonial Williamsburg. More of the same. The US Festival, I did a television for that, 250,000 naked people. A show called The Sun Kid Kids. This was on ESPN for 3 years. It was a kids' sports show. And we actually got a 1 rating with that, which ESPN was ecstatic about. A show with my old buddy, Dr. George, who I started with in Albuquerque. We did that for ABC. It was a kids' show. I had a contract with Dick Clark in which we did award shows and so forth with him. This is the Grammys of Germany. So this is one of the many international television shows I did. Bobbiani became president of Radio City Music Hall after he left Disney. And he asked me to join his team, and we actually produced the first Christmas special using the Rockettes, which still continues to today as one of the biggest attractions in New York during the fall and winter season in New York. And that was an incredible experience working on that stage. Theme parks, Slow Pig World, Fort Aventura. I talked about this project yesterday for a casino. Lights of Liberty show, which won a Thea award, where we created a sound and light show in the most historic area of America. It goes on and on and on and on. So I'm just going to whip through some of these really fast for you because my time is down to 24 seconds. So, well, you're taking my time. You're taking my time. I've got my own company is 30 years this year. I'm starting my 50th year doing shows professionally this year. And I got to plug a book that I just wrote, which is available, which is Everything You Need to Know About Planning an Event. And it's available outside, and it's 25% off. And the proceeds go to TEA. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Ron. Thank you, Ron.